Hello, hello, hello. Thank you and welcome to yet another edition of Tax Talks with Charles. Always very exciting to come and talk to you about these things. And what's even more exciting is the quality of people I bring on board to talk to you about not only taxes, but we talk to you about wealth. We talk to you about asset protection, tax mitigation, wealth building, all these things that meet our dream. That is the reason we're here. That's the reason we came to this world. We only came here to make a difference, to impact the community, and to leave a legacy. And that's why we're talking about these things incessantly. We never stop thinking about these things because the game is in the mindset. And our game is how much of that mindset can we change so that we are focused on those things that matter, those things that are going to change our whole existence. And not only change our own existence, but change the existence of those who are around us and the world. We want to make a legacy, create a lasting legacy. And that's why we're all here. Again, I want to thank you for coming on board today for another edition of Tax Talks with Charles. Again, today, somebody very special, somebody I respect, somebody who works with me. He works in the team. He is our attorney. Today, we're going to be talking about estate taxes. We're going to be talking about what? The trusts. There's been a lot of talk about trust. Many of us hear about trust all the time, but the system has conditioned our minds to thinking that trusts are for other people. It's not only for us. That is the one of the best kept secret of the top 1%. And today we are going to demystify it. We're going to break it down. We're going to make everybody understand that this is not only for the top 1%, it's for all of us. Today I have a very good friend of mine, somebody who works in my team. He's called David Berhanu. David Berhanu is our attorney. Welcome, David, and thanks for having you.
Thank you, Charles. I don't know if you heard me, but I appreciate the invitation and to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you, David. You know, today I'm so excited to have you on. Many people have been asking so many questions, and some of these questions I've been relaying them to you, and some have been coming directly to you. But today we're going to demystify some of those things. But before we get into talking about estate planning, trust, those complicated things, those things that help us live a better life, who is David?
Who is David? Wow, that's a great question. Thank you. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I am a father to start with. I have two sons, Sona and Marco. Sona is 14 and then Marco is 12. So great kids. I love them to death. Come from a family of seven, mom and dad and five brothers, no sisters, unfortunately. So both my parents are alive. They live here in Portland. I'm a veteran. Those of you that may be interested in, military service, I served for about 9 years in the military. And primarily my work was really stateside until about maybe 2004. I was deployed to the Middle East and I served for about 2 years as a deployed soldier. So I did that. Military service was great for me. I'm not promoting military service, but for me, it turned out really nice. Professionally, as you mentioned in your intro, that I am an attorney. I took the bar exam in two states. I actually passed the bar exam in both of the states. So I practice in the state of Georgia, so I hold a license in the state of Georgia. But I also took the bar exam in the state of New Jersey. But I practice law in the area, court law, which is primarily personal injury cases, immigration cases, and then estate planning is where I kind of focus on. So that kind of gives you a little bit of background about myself.
Great, great. I noted a few things there. Number one, you're a veteran. Thank you for your service. The second thing is that you're doing a lot of great stuff. You're a father. You have these great kids, which is always a plus. And then another one is the fact that you're an attorney and you are an estate plan attorney. So you work with, you prepare trusts. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, I do.
And you help people structure their estates to meet their American dream. Is that also correct?
That is correct. That is correct. So I deal with a lot of clients that, just to kind of give you why it's so important is that, I've had several families where an individual would die or pass and a lot of their paperwork, legal paperwork is not in place. So what ends up happening is that we're going to have to go to court, appoint, an administrator or an executor, and that person will carry out the wishes of the individual that passed away. So what you want to do is make a proper estate planning so that a lot of that stuff will be planned and taken care of. and your family that are left behind can actually just, won't have to go through the probate process in a sense, and having to handle all that and conflict on top of that as well. So.
Thank you for saying that, but I don't want us to go into any complications today. Let's get directly into the source of the matter. Most people are here listening to us because they want to know about trusts. They hear about trusts. David, what is a trust?
A trust is a legal document that allows an individual to hold and manage a property on behalf of another individual, a beneficiary. So when creating a trust, there are three parties that are involved: the grantor, the trustee, and the beneficiary, right? So the beneficiaries would be the ones that are going to benefit, the trustee would be the one that is going to manage, and then the grantor would be the one that is going to be granting and basically pass on the assets. So to create a trust, you'll need those three elements. So the trustee will be in charge of handling and managing the estate in a way that is going to be beneficial to the beneficiaries. So that would be a trust.
Okay, perfect. So many people walk through this door, or they call me, or we have conference calls, and I have a lot of them. They tell me they have trust. And there are so many types of trusts out there. I've seen hundreds of different types of trusts. I mean, the same trust in different forms. But tell me a little bit. We have this thing called revocable and irrevocable trust. And most importantly, we talk about living trusts. What is it? Why is that different from other trusts? And why is it so important?
Well, it's great that you brought up, and I appreciate the distinction that you made there because both of them play different roles. Okay, when it comes to a trust, there's various trusts. There's a number of trusts, but they primarily fall in two buckets. Number one is going to be revocable trust, and then the second one would be irrevocable trust. Okay, both of them have their own pros and cons. Now, revocable trust gives you more flexibility. It gives you privacy. It does give you asset protection as well, but what it does is in the revocable living trust, the individual, become the grantor and the trustee while you are alive. So you are the giver and the receiver at the same time. Okay, so basically, all the assets that are going to be in a revocable trust are going to continue to be in the grantor's control. It may not be under the individual's name, but it will be under his control. Meaning, the car may be titled to the trust, but he still drives it. The home may be titled to the trust, but he still lives in it. The bank accounts may have the trust name on it, but he still uses the ATM cards and stuff like that. So revocable living trust really gives you that flexibility without having any assets under your name, right? When it comes to irrevocable living trust, however, it's kind of somewhat different because it has some permanency to it. There's no way for you to reverse that. It's just like a gift. Once you give a gift to somebody, once it leaves your hands, then it's no longer yours. It is the same way with irrevocable trust. It's a separate identity. It's a total gift, right? So in that case, then, if you want to make any modifications, it becomes more challenging. So it's less flexible, right? So you have to decide whether flexibility is something that is important to you or not important to you. Then you can decide which way to go about it. So those would be the major differences of the two.
So that is great. So I'm the newbie in the here. I just came to you and I say, okay, David, I want to create a trust. What would be that first thing that comes to mind? Because when I come to you, I don't know anything about trust. Because you are always, as a strategist, I assume you're always thinking in terms of how can I save this guy money? How can I protect his assets? How can I help him build wealth? Those are the three things that always stand out that you're thinking about. So if I came to you, David, and I say, David, let's say I'm a physician. David, I'm a physician. I make $500,000, or I make $1 million a year as a physician, and I need a trust. What is your primary thing? What is that thing that you will tell me? What do you need in order to determine what I need in terms of a trust?
Well, the thing about it, trust is not for any particular person. I think we should all get ready for the inevitable, which is our passing, right? So you want to put your legal affairs in order before you pass, right? So initially, when I meet with clients, I interview them to the fullest, what their wishes are, how they want to pass on their assets, what they want to do with in terms of the beneficiary. So really, is there anything within the family dynamic that we need to kind of allocate more resources to, or like any family dynamic that is unique to that family that needs to be addressed through the trust. Some families have disabled kids, for example. Some families are dependent on government programs, for example. So anything that we do, we need to make sure that these things are not being affected and they're being properly addressed, right? So when I meet with clients, I ask a series of questions just to kind of gather what it is that is going to best fit this family. Okay. So if somebody comes to me and say that, you know what, I really need a strong asset protection, right? I already know that maybe irrevocable trust may not be the best fit for them depending where they live. There are some states that still have strong asset protection, even though they are revocable living trust, but majority of the states really don't. Therefore, when somebody says the primary goal is to asset protection, then I focus on that and ask various questions dealing with that. So, and then maybe lean one way or the other, depending on how the individual would like to be structured and things. So, there's a series of questions, obviously, but just to kind of get a bigger picture of what the family's trying to do.
Perfect. Perfect. So I get that. So I come to your office and you basically need to do what we call a wealth assessment for me in order to be able to determine what's the best thing in terms of my estate planning and type of trust needs to be for me. I've heard so many people say, and we say that all the time, you and I say that all the time. We say that the foundation of your estate is a revocable living trust. Why is that?
But ultimately, everything that you own comes down to the trust itself. It finds itself to the trust, right? So I think it's a great tool. It's a great instrument. It's a legal instrument that allows you to keep all of your assets in one bucket, protected from creditors, lawsuits, bankruptcy, various things, right? So it's a unique and very good legal instrument that individuals should be using. Now, as well as there's various benefits. Asset protection being one of them. But when it comes to tax as well, I mean, there's major tax benefits, and we can talk a little more about that because you primarily deal with tax. There are a portion of your assets that are going to be excluded from taxation. For example, I think up to right by now it's about a little bit over 13 million as an individual can exclude that portion of it from their taxation, right? So there's various things, and I think trust being a foundational piece could really benefit individuals in structuring it in such a way that majority of their income, majority of the assets could be excluded from the tax. And right now, I believe, you can correct me on this because that's a little bit more of your area. I want to say the top rate on estate planning right now, state tax is about 40%. So I'm sure if you made $1 million, for example, potentially $400,000 of that potentially be taxed. I mean, it could just go to the government. So how do you avoid that? And those are the kind of things that, we'll be discussing and then, finding a solution for that.
Excellent, excellent. What about I've seen people who tell me, okay, but I have a will. Why do I need a trust? I already have a will.
Well, will is a great instrument. Will is also part of the estate planning. So we also do wills, but we don't rely on wills to really do the job, right? So the way that we structure ours is that we create a trust, but we supplement it with a will. We have something called a pour-over will, because the difference between the two is that a trust takes effect immediately upon execution. To execute a trust, you're going to have to sign it, notarize it, and have it witnessed. And a lot of states right now are requiring about 2 witnesses to see you signing the documents. Now, a will, on the other hand, is something that comes to effect after an individual's passing. Okay, and the major thing about the two also is that one has to go through the whole process, where the other one is a private document. A trust is a private document. It's signed, it's notarized, and witnessed, but it's saved in your home or in your safe deposit box at a bank. But a will, on the other hand, will need to go through the probate process, and then you have to hire an attorney. And it's costly as well as time consuming. And the major difference is that a trust leaves you out of court potentially, versus where a will, you would need to go through the probate process, and it's going to be a public. It's going to be resolved basically in a public arena.
That's exciting. And this conversation could be exciting. It could be a very lengthy conversation. David, I know we are planning an event that's coming up. So, and some of these things, we're going to talk a lot about trust and all these things during our event, but we don't have a lot of time for this program today, and we're getting towards the end of the program. David, I know you still have a lot of things to say regarding estate planning, regarding trust, but for today, what is one of the last things that you want to tell this audience? And how can someone who really wants to get these things done, how will they reach David? How finally get to work with David.
Well, thank you for that, Charles. So just last piece of just information I'd like to leave is that generally speaking, when we think of estate planning, trust and such, we think of wealthy individuals within billions and hundreds of millions of dollars, okay? But this can be for smaller families, okay? So, because you just need to put your legal affairs behind. And a lot of the people that I really have represented the last few years, when it comes to estate planning and letters of administration and executors, it has been individuals that just left a couple of properties behind, and we have to go through the course process to resolve that issue. So take the steps. It doesn't take very long. You just 1 hour consultation with us, and then it'll just basically, we get the process going, and then everything will be in place. So it's just a matter of preparing and, really
But
getting the work
David,
done.
if I don't have stuff, if I don't have things, I don't have all these things, do I need a trust? If I don't have all those things you're talking about, do I really need a trust?
If you don't have
If I
any
don't have
assets,
assets, I really don't have assets.
some people have personal assets. They may not have, everybody will have personal assets. And some people just wish to have a particular asset passed down to a particular person, for example. You don't want any family members to kind of just fight over your assets. I recommend, just maybe even if you don't own anything, just create a simple one. And it doesn't, because then nothing is left to question. Everything is written, so I think that would be a great way to handle it. To get a hold of me, obviously, they could reach, Berhanu's law firm. You can Google that, or, CHN Advisors. You can also reach me through that. So, but be good, prepare, and, without preparing, then you can't get anywhere because you just be swimming. And I think estate planning and trust are great instruments to put your legal affairs in place and plan for the future.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, David. Guys, I just want to thank you for being there. And you can meet David. We work together. We work in the firm. And one of the key things I tell you is this information that we give out here, these are critical information. You might be sitting there and thinking, why are they talking about trust? Trust is the most important document from a legal standpoint for every one of us sitting here. If you want to organize your legacy, you want to organize your estate, the number one document you should be thinking about is a trust. And that's why we talk about these things, because we came here, we're working so hard, we're making things happen. And this economy, this government has made it easy for us to be able to transition from one generation to another in the most efficient way. And there's no better way than having a trust. And this is one of the things I tell people, that is the best secret of the wealth. If you're out here and you are, whether you have nothing, you may have just your life insurance, you put in a trust. Whatever you think that is worthy, you have just a life insurance, it's worthy of a trust. Why? Because when you are away, that is the best way to reorganize your estate and transfer those things in the most detailed manner. I have a special needs kid, and this special needs kid, for me, whenever I think about my children, I always think about him because I feel like he is the one who cannot take care of himself. He cannot protect himself. And the only way I have to be able to protect this child is to make sure that I organize myself so that when I'm not there, when my spouse is not there, that child can still be able to live and be supported by the community because there was a system that was put in place for him. And there's no better system than having a trust in place. I want to thank you. I want to appreciate you for being here with us today. And I want to thank you, David, for taking the time to be here. One of the things I want to say is if you are here and you love this program and you are getting information, please just click share the information as widely as possible. This is the 10th edition of our podcast, and we do this podcast 2 times every week. So again, this is live for you, and you can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on every other platform. Share it as widely as possible. And like I say all the time, we are going to put your comments on there, and based on your comments, we're going to decide what is going to be the next thing we're talking about. I want to thank you today, and it was another edition of the Tax Talk with Charles. Thank you. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye. The reason I talk about finance guys, the problem we see here is that this is an area that I see a lot when I do tax resolution. So people